This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
It is ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to say welcome into the show for today. And as always, we all want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listener today. And remember, we are all free and available wherever you download your podcast. And when you download your podcast, when you listen, when you feel so elated to just listen to our show right after the show is done, just go ahead and go to that little review spot. Move that little meter over to that 5-star and drop us a little comment in there to say, hey, these guys are amazing, they're excellent, and you should definitely listen. We would definitely appreciate that. If you don't do that, I might have to question whether or not, you wrote the little shop bus going to school. But I shouldn't have done that. All right, so yeah, let's move on. Starting off the show today, we're gonna get into the Falcons, right? We got the Richie Grant. He is somebody that had a lot of expectation this year, last year, I'm sorry, and didn't quite live up to him. We'll kind of explain why and how he may be one of those guys to take one of those sophomore jumps that everybody seems to love to talk about. And after that, Kyle Pitts. Is it possible that his numbers can be a little bit lower, the yardage, and be better this year? Could he actually take a sophomore jump that is significant and we'll be able to understand and see what type of guy he's going to be in 2022? And last but not least, it's Prince's birthday, and baseball umpires up here putting their hands on folks. What is all of that about? We'll get into all of that. But first, as I mentioned before, Richie Grant caught a lot of criticism last year, and the expectations for a second-round pick are you're going to come in, start right away, and justify that pick being made in that second round. And I think a lot of people can agree that Richie Grant didn't necessarily do that. But I think that the first thing that we need to kind of put out there as far as like how he got into that situation, right? Because I think Dean Pease laid it all out when it comes to knowing his defense and the difficulty of that. He said Richie Grant just came up a little short in that department.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, and as far as with him being on that level, it's a matter of him, Isaiah Oliver going down, and then once Isaiah Oliver down, Dean Pease came like, okay, I got to figure out how to get this guy on the field. So he went in, he played the nickel spot, and he was in a space where he was starting to see why they took him, right? And I think the big thing for me, for Grant, is to kind of help me believe that he can do it and he can get into a space where he can be a solid contributor. He talked about it at OTAs on Friday in the open practice down in Mercedes-Benz. He said that he feels that he has to prove himself each and every year coming to the season, and I think that you have to do nothing but agree with that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because when you look at the reasoning, the rationale for Richie Grant being drafted, it was point blank, the return of the ball hawk. Because with the departure of a DeMonte Casey, this, of course, pre-injury, he was considered the Falcons' ball hawk. And so when they brought Richie Grant in, they're like, yeah, we got another ball hawk back. We're good. And it just did not look like that. And granted, you gave some good rationales for why it didn't look that way. But the bottom line is it didn't, because the thought was that you wouldn't end the 2021 season, look at a stat line and see Richie Grant having 0 interceptions. That's not what you expected. That's not what you needed out of Richie Grant for that defense. But yeah, I love the energy that he's bringing to the table. We saw him still pick up. It seemed like he was more comfortable in the defense later on in the year. And if he gets to this season, play one position and just stay in that, and hopefully has even taken the time to just master being in that safety spot. And now you'll get year 2 under Dean Pease, I do think is going to look different. And he could be that guy who, low key, we haven't talked a lot about him because he's not in a position battle per se, right?
Right,
we
exactly.
talk about those guys who are in position battles. But might I say, Jarvis, his is a different kind of position battle. He's in a battle with himself to be able to show what he can do at that position and to be able to excel for that high second round pick that was brought in to really shore up that secondary. And when you look at the secondary, not just Richie Grant from last season, but if you look at Isaiah Oliver coming back, seeming like he's a bit healthier than he was before. You look at AJ Terrell, who by all stretches, is being just touted, not as just justifiably so. Now that's somebody who justified his first round pick.
Smoking Norfolk. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Clearly justified. You look across that entire secondary and what the Falcons did in the offseason in free agency as well as in the draft to continue. I think the secondary is actually shoring up pretty well. And I do believe that Richie Grant is going to be a part of that success in the secondary when it's all said and done. And they're going to need him because the NFC South is still just as loaded as ever, just in terms of weapons that you have to deal with just in your division alone.
No doubt about it. And I think the thing that I'm sure Richie Grant was happy to hear, Arthur Smith has come out and DPs as well. They have come out and said that he's going to work exclusively at the safety position. And I think that he is more than happy to kind of do with it, even though he did a solid job at that nickel spot. And you seen he and Jalen Hawkins, those guys are like two peas in a pod. Every time we're out at practice, those guys are out there hanging, having conversations, and so you like to see that camaraderie, right? But T, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald, 95 million. The first 2 years, $60 million guaranteed. This dude is the highest non-paid quarterback ever.
Yes.
Ever in the NFL. And you know what? I'm not hating. As a matter of fact, I'm like, well, it's about damn time. That's what I said when I saw those numbers come across my screen.
I think a lot of people felt like that because if you think about the position outside of quarterback, that is the most influential position. It is going to be that of the guy who takes the quarterback down, that of the guy who completely affects and can change a game all by himself. And can we really think of anybody, especially at this stage in their career? Because you could say a Von Miller, and obviously Von did what he came to do in that situation, right? But talking about the here and now, right? Aaron Donald. And it is Aaron Donald, and it is Aaron Donald. Everybody else is just a close second. So, yeah, I was excited to see him get that money. And when I think about it, of course, being that he's a defensive tackle, my first thought went to Grady Jarrett. And I said, you know what? Good for you, Rams, because you're saying defense is what wins you championships, right? And that takes nothing away from what Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp were able to do for the Rams offense. But if you don't have Aaron Donald, you are not winning.
You don't win that Super Bowl.
Let's just be honest about it, And not just that, Jarvis. Should we say you're not even getting out of the NFC period without an Aaron Donald? So again, and you gave him pieces all throughout, right? So that you'd be able to get over that hump because you were in win now mode. What I like about what the Falcons did was they said, hey, we got ourselves, and when I say a version, people, I'm not suggesting that, Aaron Donald equals Grady Jarrett, but my point being, you see somebody who is an anchor, both on the field and off the field, your mental anchor, your physical anchor, your spiritual and emotional anchor, and you say to yourself, we got a shot to keep this guy. We got a shot to keep him. He is the perfect bridge because he was there during the low times, right? Towards the end of the Dan Quinn era. He's there at the beginning of the Arthur Smith era as they're figuring things out. And then as Arthur Smith and company begin to ascend, I think he's the perfect guy to then take you on that journey to ascend to that next level. So when I saw the Aaron Donald deal, yes, it made me excited because I had an opportunity to speak to him actually twice. Just before he got drafted and also for the Super Bowl here in Atlanta. And just the kind of guy that you want to see have that kind of success. But also, Jarvis, it made me think about Grady Jarrett and how when you got that kind of anchor on your defense, it can mean nothing but good things.
You know what? And it's easy to kind of see the parallels, right? Because when you look at Aaron Donald's situation with the Rams, if they want to win another Super Bowl, they want to sign him, right? And just like you talked about with Grady Jarrett, if the Falcons want to be able to have a nice transition into their regime, Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith putting their stamp on this
Yeah.
organization, they had to go ahead and sign Grady Jarrett and get the deal done. So it's interesting that it kind of played out like that because, like I said, I think we were on the same page as far as thinking about like, oh, there's some interesting parallels here because those guys are very valuable to their respective teams. And last but not least, T, you know, the Braves are back on the diamond tonight against the Oakland Athletics. Kyle Wright is on the mound. He's 5-3 with a 2.41 ERA. We already know what those bats are looking like. I think it's kind of easy to kind of expect the bats to continue to roll, and also we would need to see a little bit more of Kyle Wright. Make sure he keep those guys off base. You know, we know he got a little problem with that, but continue to sit those guys down. He's actually right now in the league 66 strikeouts, and the Braves are playing for another milestone. They're 14-14 at home. With the win tonight, they will actually be over 500 for the first time this season at home. So, hey, it's a lot on the line tonight, and hopefully the Braves can kind of continue getting on this streak, right?
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing. And of course, I call it the Matt Olson revenge game, but we know it's not really revenge because we know it wasn't a negative thing.
Thank you for saving me, Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. For him, it was like Captain Save, you know what? But yeah, for Matt Olson, still, you know, it gives you a little bit of momentum, right? Of course, that's because Jarvis
right.
But it gives you a little momentum for Matt Olson in terms of getting that 4-run home run in that last, or having 4 hits in that last game in the series finale against the Rockies. Also making that amazing diving catch just to seal the deal in that series, in the 4th game of that series. And, you know, he was a part of the reason that they were able to literally get a sweep. I mean, you just don't hear about 4-game sweeps anymore. And for the Braves, that's like a sweep period, whether it's a 2, 3, or 4 game, because you hope to see them get this 2-game sweep against the A's. It's a beautiful thing. But Matt Olson trending up on offense and defense at the right time. So we love to see it. And low-key, he hasn't really had an impact on the A's, by the way, but I'm just interested because we haven't seen Christian Pache, right? So this will be the first opportunity to kind of see him in a different uniform. I do think Alex Anthopoulos made the right move there.
Oh, no doubt.
It'll be interesting to see, like, does he have sort of a revenge game? Hopefully not either game 1 or game 2 against the Braves.
No doubt about it. And we will continue to keep an eye on those guys. We want them to remain undefeated in the month of June. Yes, we've been saying it. We're talking about it. And because we don't believe in no doggone superstitions on this doggone show. We believe in reality and putting good work in and getting good results. That's what we believe. We thank you for the good results that you've given us so far by making sure you follow us and liking and subscribing us. You know, you can follow Tenitra on Twitter at Tenitra Batiste. You can follow myself at JarvisD90. Make sure you go ahead and do that. You know, we're kind of some cool people, you know. I'm like to pat my own back sometimes. But, yeah, coming up next, though, T, Kyle Pitts. Everybody, we talked about this, maybe that sophomore leap for Richie Grant. Let's talk about this sophomore leap for Kyle Pitts. Is it possible that the yardage can go down, but the touchdowns can go up? We'll explain that next, right here on ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and T, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta.